Okay, so what happens if a crazy person is given millions in order to create a superstar who can single-handedly win the World Cup? As you might know, the World Cup is the most popular sports event on the planet, with over 1 billion people watching the most recent final. However, in history, only teams from Europe and South America have actually won it, with no team from Asia ever making the final. That's why in Season 1 of Blue Lock, Japan tries to fix this by hiring Jinpachi Ego. Ego is a former football player that no one seems to know, and his mission is to turn Japan from losers into World Cup winners. To accomplish this, his first job is to transform someone in Japan into the world's best striker, and today we're explaining the first season in under 20 minutes. In episode 1, Ego invites 300 players from across the country to be part of a secret experiment. Having done some research, he believed that these 300 are the best strikers under the age of 18, and among them was Ryosuke Kira. Recently, Kira scored a dramatic winning goal for his high school and was invited to play for one of Japan's youth teams. The media also refers to him as the jewel of Japanese soccer, but once he arrived at the meeting, Kira was disgusted by Ego's plan. To put it simply, Ego wanted all of them to abandon their current teams to join him in a high-tech facility called Blue Lock. Inside of Blue Lock, they would all undergo special training, with the weakest players being eliminated until only one person remains. From Ego's perspective, Japan's current squad cares way too much about teamwork, when what they really need is a striker who cares about nothing but scoring goals. In other words, Japan needs a striker with a massive ego, someone willing to destroy the dreams of everyone else so that he can become the best in the world. At first, none of the students here were willing to go along with this, with the one exception being Yoichi Isaki. For context, a few days earlier, it was his team who lost against Kira, but the loss could have been avoided if Isaki had a bigger ego. To be specific, there was one moment where he could have easily scored, but instead of taking the shot, he passed it to his teammate, who then fumbled. After hearing what Ego said about scoring goals no matter what, Isaki ran to join Blue Lock, with everyone else soon following behind him. Inside this facility, they had no access to the outside world, and were each given uniforms with a number on it. These numbers represent each player's rank based on how good Ego perceives them to be. However, the ranks can change based on future performance. By the end of Blue Lock, the top 5 players will be registered to play for Japan in the upcoming Under-20 World Cup. On the flip side, all other players will be permanently banned from ever representing Japan, no matter how talented they might be. This brings us to the first test, which was a game of tag where the loser gets kicked out of Blue Lock. Inside this room was a total of 12 players, and whoever gets hit by the ball then becomes it. When the timer runs out, that person's career will be over unless they're able to tag someone else. Interestingly, the size of this room is the exact same as a penalty area, aka the area where over 70% of goals are scored. Therefore, the test is designed to see which strikers can position themselves in the area in order to hit their rivals while also avoiding being hit themselves. With just 20 seconds remaining, Isaki was the one who was tagged, but he had an easy chance to save himself by hitting the lowest ranked player in Blue Lock. That said, Isaki realized that to become the best in the world, he had to change and actually beat someone stronger than himself. That's why he turned around to find a new opponent, but in a bizarre turn of events, the ball was taken from him by Bachara. Like Isaki, Bachara was looking for a strong opponent and spent the final 10 seconds trying to tag Kira. When that failed, he then strangely passed the ball to Isaki, who technically didn't have to touch it. If Isaki had just avoided the ball, then Bachara would have been eliminated, but with his ego now kicking in, Isaki smashed the ball into the room's highest ranked player. This kick ended Kira's career with the national team before it even really began, and he was forced to leave Blue Lock that same day. Meanwhile, Isaki and Bachara were praised by Ego for displaying the levels of selfishness that he's looking for in a striker. Although Yoichi didn't say this out loud, ruining Kira's dreams gave him an intense feeling of excitement, one that he didn't fully understand. 3 days later, Bachara revealed that he knew Isaki would kick the ball because he sensed that there was a monster inside him. From Bachara's point of view, all true strikers have monsters that guide their choices on the pitch, and he believed that deep down, Isaki has one as well. Despite that, both Isaki and Bachara were 2 of the lowest ranked players in Blue Lock, along with everyone else who survived this game of tag. These 11 lowest players would be known as Team Z, and inside of their building there were 4 other teams. Because Blue Lock is so big, it had way more buildings than just this one, but for now the show only focused on the building with the weakest players. In order to survive, Team Z, Y, X, W, and V would all play each other in a tournament known as the First Selection. The idea was that the 2 best performing teams would get to stay, while everyone not on those teams would be sent home. To make things interesting though, Ego made one exception, which is that for each losing team, the player with the most goals wouldn't get kicked out. This created a scenario where players now didn't have to care about winning, instead all you had to do to survive was score more goals than your teammates. The impact of this was seen in the first match between Team X and Team Z, where players from both sides fought their own teammates for the ball. Eventually though, this chaos was ended thanks to Barou, who's a striker on Team X that calls himself the King. Using his superior skills, Barou took control of the game, scoring an amazing solo goal in the process. This single goal filled the rest of Team X with confidence, and soon they were all working together with Barou as the main man. Before the match, Ego suspected something like this would happen because the best strikers all have a unique talent that lets them create goals from nothing. Those goals then serve as the foundation to turn chaos into order, and this was proven correct when Team X eventually went 5-0 up. Towards the end of the match, Izuki then made a pass that no one else predicted, enabling his teammate Kunigami to blast it into the net. Although this goal didn't change the result, it hinted at what their unique talents might be. For Kunigami, his weapon is his unrivaled shooting power with his left foot, and for Izuki, he has incredible spatial awareness. This awareness of his surroundings allows him to sense a goal before it happens, but in the next match, he comes up against someone with the same ability. Over on Team Y, Nico used spatial awareness to organize the rest of his teammates, enabling them to efficiently defend and counterattack. Thanks to his influence, Team Y took the lead. However, in the second half, Izuki made the first move to stop him. In the process, Yuichi set up the equalizer for Team Z, and the score stayed at 1-1 until the final minute of the game. During that final minute, Nico had the perfect chance to score, but because he's like Izuki, he passed the ball instead of shooting. Before the pass could reach its target, it was intercepted by Yuichi, since he knows exactly how Nico thinks. The difference between them is that for Izuki, passing the ball in high school was his biggest regret, and in this moment he abandons that old version of himself. With help from Kunigami and Bachura, Izuki launches a counterattack, and in the final seconds scores the winning goal for Team Z. As Ego watches on, Yuichi then walks down the length of the pitch and starts aura farming right in front of Nico. This pure egoism is exactly what Jinpachi was looking for, and he promotes Izuki to become the highest ranked player on Team Z. After his rank increases, it inspires the rest of his teammates to try harder, and in their next game against Team W, a guy called Kuon scores 3 goals. Kuon's weapon is his ability to jump high, and up until this point, he'd been the one organizing their game plan. Interestingly though, Ego wasn't impressed by his first half hat-trick, and that's because Kuon was cheating. The night before, Kuon had approached Team W and told them all about Team Z's tactics and individual weapons. In exchange, they agreed to just let him score 3 goals so that Kuon could become the top scorer for Team Z. As the top scorer, he'd remain at Blue Lock no matter what, even if the rest of his team was eliminated. In the second half of the match, Kuon then sabotages Team Z by making a series of mistakes that allows Team W to equalize. With the score tied at 3-3, Kuon then literally switches sides and the game suddenly becomes 12 players versus 10. With this overwhelming disadvantage, Team Z quickly concedes a goal, and it was hard for them to strike back since the opposition knew all of their tactics. Regardless, Izuki in particular refused to give up, and he angrily tried to win the game seemingly by himself. His pure determination gave inspiration to Chiguri, who's someone that recently recovered from a serious knee injury. Ever since his injury, Chiguri had been afraid to run at full speed, hence why no one at Blue Lock saw him as a huge threat. However, with time running out, he decides to give everything he has, even if it means getting injured again, and sprints down the pitch at top speed. Naturally, Team W had no idea this was coming, and when Chiguri receives the ball, he blitzes past all of them to score a last-minute goal. This goal caused the game to end in a tie, with Chiguri regaining his confidence and declaring that he'll be the best striker on the planet. Following the match, Team Z still had a chance to stay at Blue Lock, but to survive, they'd have to win their final game. The problem is that this final game was against Team V, who were unbeaten and had destroyed Nico's team by 8-0. As if that wasn't bad enough, Kuon refused to help his teammates during this final match, meaning Team Z needed a plan to beat the strongest team with only 10 men. To accomplish this, Izuki and the gang studied footage of Team V and discovered that most of their goals are created by Reo Mikage. Reo is the son of a billionaire businessman who cares more about playing football than he does about taking over his dad's company. Within Team V, his job is to give passes to Seishiro Nagi, who's his best friend and a natural genius. Unlike Reo, Nagi has no interest in football and was shown to leave practice early so he could play games on his phone. That said, Nagi's natural talent is superior to all players in this building, making him Team V's biggest threat. In response, Team Z's plan was to focus mainly on defense and then occasionally counterattack with a long-range pass. If successful, this plan would allow Team Z to score every now and then while preventing Nagi from getting any goals. Early on, the plan nearly works when Team Z hits the frame of the goal, but in the next play, Ryo decides to replicate what he just saw. By launching a surprise long-range pass, Nagi then expertly controls it and fires Team V into the lead. Refusing to stop there, Team V then score again and again, putting themselves 3 goals up in around 20 minutes. With defeat for Team Z looking certain, Bachara just abandons the plan and decides to test the limits of his weapon. Bachara's weapon is his pure dribbling ability, and from kickoff, he dribbles past all of Team V to score this wonder goal. This move inspires the rest of his teammates to evolve, with Kunigami blasting in a shot from beyond his usual range, which was then followed up by Chigiri getting the equalizer. As Ego watches on, he comments that extreme situations will force a striker to awaken and figure out what they can really do. For Team Z, they had to surpass their limits to have a chance of staying at Blue Lock, and for Team V, the possibility of defeat also had an effect. For the first time ever, Nagi felt like he should actually try, and he scores from a nearly impossible angle. After this, the two teams went back and forth as Kunigami equalized to make it 4-4, and then Nagi put himself in a position to make it 5-4. Before he could take this winning shot though, Kuon surprisingly jumped in to foul him. Until this point, Kuon had stayed out of the game completely, because as we know, Ego's rules made it easy for him to not get involved. By going out of his way to foul Nagi, it meant that Kuon now received a red card, and the consequence was that he'd be kicked out of Blue Lock if Team Z didn't win. The reason he did it though is because back home, Kuon plays for a team where no one takes football seriously except him. At Blue Lock, however, his teammates were all giving everything to beat Team V, and so Kuon finally chose to stop being selfish. Thanks to his sacrifice, Team Z were able to have one final attack in which Isaki awakened to a new level. Beyond his spatial awareness, Isaki figured out that his true weapon is his direct shot, just like the one he used against Nico's team. With this knowledge, he combined both of his unique talents to score an epic goal that won the game for Team Z. Isaki's goal meant that everyone here survived their first selection, while the 3 losing teams would have to leave Blue Lock permanently. The only exceptions were Barou, Nico, and a guy called Wanema, who all survived due to being their team's top scorers. Now, moving on to their second selection, Ego revealed that up until now, the rankings he gave them were almost completely fake. Remember, at the start of Blue Lock, we were told that Isaki's building had the worst players out of the 300, but this was just a lie that Ego made up to motivate them. His reasoning was that many of the greatest players used football as a way to escape poverty, meaning that to them, the game was literally a matter of life and death. Because these Japanese schoolboys didn't have the same hunger, he wanted to destroy whatever confidence they had, and then force them to give everything to survive. Ego told this lie to players in all 5 buildings of Blue Lock, and so everyone, even the players we haven't seen, everyone was told that they were ranked the lowest. For the second selection though, they would all get new ranks based on how quickly they finished this shooting drill. For context, the second selection has multiple different stages, with the first one being a shooting drill against this AI hologram. Unlike before, this test had to be done totally alone, as players had to use their unique weapons to score 100 goals in 90 minutes. In the process, Isaki evolved his direct shot even more, and quickly moved on to the second stage. The purpose of this stage was simple. Essentially, all the players had to do was form a team of 3 people. As soon as Isaki arrived, Bachara teamed up with him before he could even say yes, and their plan was to wait for either Kunigami or Chigiri to be their 3rd member. However, in a shocking twist, Nagi volunteered to join them after being intrigued by Isaki's potential. Of course, in order to join them, he had to leave Ryo behind, who doesn't take it too well. Isaki's new team then progressed to the 3rd stage, where they come face to face with Rin Itoshi, aka the #1 player of Blue Lock. Rin is the younger brother of Sai Itoshi, who's a genius midfielder who plays for the youth team of Real Madrid, who in this show are called Real, I guess for copyright reasons, but is meant to be the biggest club in Spain. According to Rin, the only reason he arrived at Blue Lock is to surpass his older brother, and for the 3rd stage, his teammates were Aryu, who's ranked in 2nd, and Tokimitsu, who's ranked in 3rd. As the strongest team, you'd expect that no one would want to play them, but there's a good reason why Isaki challenged them to a match. The way it works is that to move on to the next stage, all you have to do is win 1 game, but Ego made a rule saying that the winning team gets to steal 1 player from the losing team. From Isaki's perspective, his ego was telling him to add Rin to their team, and he was willing to fight the strongest to make that happen. At the very beginning of their match, Nagi sets up Yuichi for a direct shot, which crashes into the goal to make it 1-0. However, Rin immediately fires back by scoring straight from kickoff, and shortly after, Aryu scores another with his incredibly long limbs. With the score at 2-1, Tokimitsu uses his physical strength to blow Isaki out the way and scores a third goal for his team. It's worth pointing out that to win in the second selection, a team has to score 5 goals, and so Tokimitsu put them in a really good position. To have any chance of coming back, Nagi suggests a change of tactics, but during this new plan, Rin showed he had greater spatial awareness than everyone, including Isaki. The game ends when Rin curls in 2 more goals, one coming directly from a corner kick, and another one coming from outside the box. Having won, his team chooses to steal Bachara, leaving Nagi and Isaki on the verge of being kicked out of Blue Lock. The only way for both of them to survive was to win a match against another team who'd recently lost a player like they did. For the first time though, Isaki wouldn't be able to rely on Bachara's passes, which forced him to evolve his individual skills. In the end, he and Nagi played a close game against Barou and a guy called Naruhaya. With the score tied at 4-4, Isaki evolved by copying Naruhaya's weapon and using his movements to sneak past Barou and score the winning goal. After this loss, Barou could have genuinely been sent home from Blue Lock, but Isaki decides to save him by adding him to their team. The 3 of them then return to their third stage, where they get challenged to a match by this super team. Team Red was Chigiri, Kunigami, and Reo was desperate to prove that Nagi made a mistake by leaving him. Meanwhile, Isaki's team was Team White, and at the start of the match, Barou selfishly refused to pass the ball. This led to Kunigami and Reo doubling up on him, and when Reo stole it, he then provided an assist for Chigiri to score. Following that, Barou refused to pass again, even though Isaki was in a great position, and for a second time, Team Red scored from a counterattack. In response, Isaki started giving all of his passes to Nagi instead, and Team White did score a goal without any involvement from the King. As the match progressed, Yuichi then evolved his tactics and decided to use Barou as a decoy. Him being a decoy means a couple different things. For example, Isaki would use Barou's body to hide his own movements, he'd position himself to take the ball when he knew Barou would lose it, and he'd act like he was about to pass to Barou before actually passing to Nagi. With this method, Team White were able to score 2 more goals without any assistance from Barou, and Barou felt so inferior that he finally passed to Isaki, who scored the 4th. In a moment of pure egoism, Yuichi then turns around and calls Barou a donkey instead of thanking him for the assist. Sick of being treated like nothing, Barou has an awakening and uses some Ronaldo chops to blitz past the whole of Team Red. His rampage ends with the winning goal for Team White, and after the match, they decide to steal Chigiri for the next round. Isaki's belief was that only Chigiri gives them a chance of beating Rin, and as they leave to the next stage, Nagi breaks up with Reo for good. In episode 20, Isaki's Team White faces off against Rin's Team Red in the final stage, and just like their first match, Team White takes an early lead before Rin casually levels the score. Thanks to Isaki's evolution though, he was the only one on the pitch to understand how Rin thinks, but the problem is that he just didn't have the physicals to stop him. On the next play, the number 1 player steals the ball from Yuichi and basically orders Bachara to create a goal, which he does. This causes Nagi to get fired up, and he acknowledges that losing before has changed him into someone that actually wants to improve. In the very next attack, he tricks Rin with this fake shot before scoring a wonder goal to level the game. Rin responds by showing off his Puppet Master Soccer, in which he controls the field by creating these scenarios and then accurately predicting how people will react. The end result was another goal for Team Red, putting them 3-2 up. However, one person Rin couldn't predict was Barou, who on the next play steals the ball from Isaki, his own teammate, and then levels the game. Because of the intensity of this match, nearly everyone started to feel tired, except for Tokimitsu, who has unnaturally high stamina. As a result, Rin used Tokimitsu to win him a free kick, and scored directly from it. At this point, Team Red only needed 1 more goal to win, and so Isaki had to evolve. By now, his mind was working on the same level as Rin, and so to turn things around, Isaki calculated what Rin expects him to do, and then subverted those expectations by scoring a backheel direct shot. With the score being level, the next goal would decide the winner, and during the match, Isaki takes a direct shot that nearly goes in but is blocked by Rin at the last second. For Bachara, he felt like both of these players were so far above him, and that to reach their level, he needs to think for himself instead of listening to the monster. This awakening leads to him destroying Team White with his dribbling skills, but as he goes to score the winning goal, it gets blocked by Isaki. Luckily, the deflected ball falls to Rin, who blasts it in and wins the game for Team Red. Impressed by Isaki's performance, Rin steals him, and together they move on to the third selection. There, they had to play a game against the World 5, who were famous professional strikers. This is the part where I say who I think they're meant to be in real life, and in my opinion, Adam Blake is clearly meant to be Harry Kane, Dada Silva is probably based on Adriano, Diego Luna could be based on either Guti or Fernando Torres, Pablo Cabazos might be Julian Alvarez or Dybala, and of course, Julian Loki is Kylian Mbappe. In the final episode of Season 1, the World 5 casually destroys Rin's team by 5-1, and then report back to Ego about who they were most impressed by. Naturally, to hire these players, it cost millions for each one, on top of the millions that it cost to make Blue Lock in the first place, and the head of Japan's football union decides that he wants to shut down Blue Lock. Days later, Isaki's team is joined in the third selection by the others who survived, including his friends from Team White, as well as Nico, Rayo, and some former members from Team Z. Sadly, among these final 35 players, Kunigami wasn't there, as he was defeated and left behind by a guy called Ryusei Shido. With everyone here, Ego reveals a dramatic change in plans. To save Blue Lock, they have to win a match in 3 weeks' time against Japan's under-20 team, which now includes Sai Itoshi. If Blue Lock can win, then they will become Japan's new under-20 team, but if they lose, then the program will be shut down forever. The season finishes with Isaki realizing that this one game can change his whole life, as Ego reassures them that they are ready. Anyhow, with that said, that's everything you need to know about Blue Lock Season 1, and if this video can get 2,000 likes, then I'll make a Season 2 recap as one of my next videos. If we don't get that amount of likes, then I might still do it at some point in the future, but it really does depend on how much you guys want to see it. Either way, thank you for watching till the end, and until the next one, peace out.